Okay, that sounds great.
Oh my God, you brought Leopard 1 again, right? Hopefully this time, yeah, I can see that you brought also fire extinguisher. Good job.
On the last stream, you actually said that this is one of your favorite tanks, so we decided to go with this one.
It is. I actually brought that best to him at some point because he was not playing Leopard 1 at all. And
as you can see, there is actually full dynamic terrain deformation. So when I'm driving, I'm actually really creating a track behind me in the terrain. So here you will see. It's actually dynamic, so it's not only texture, it is actually real deformation of the terrain. Then, together with that, we were actually completely reworking the vegetation system. So now, not only wind is actually happening, but if I shoot, the pressure wave from the gun is going to affect the vegetation.
Oh. I haven't tried that out when I played. Wow.
And if there's actually, if you are in fields or if you are in higher grass, it will do exactly the same. So it's actually one of my favorite parts. We completely reworked the system of the effects of the shooting and explosions. So as you can see, the all operation.
Oh.
So these objects are real objects. You can actually play a small billiard with them around. You can shoot them, you can push them in front of you. They really react. It's not anymore just an animation of an edge. There are some bugs, as you can see, they are a little bit bumpy on my tank. But you can actually play quite a bit with the environment.
At the same time, Miloš already mentioned that we are not really doing built-in destruction. Mechanically, yes, we can. However, it will have a very nasty consequences on the gameplay because a lot of save zones, a lot of possessions people are used to and know how to play from will be basically destroyed and disappeared. It doesn't mean that in some future we will not come up with different ideas how to utilize the system. So our main objective here was to implement it, to have it here. Now to find a good way, it's a different challenge, it's a different
that makes sense.
objective.
Let me now show you my favorite part, and that's actually water. On the VG Fest when we were showing it first time, there was a lot of players who just stand around that and didn't get anywhere else. So as you can see, the water reacts completely on your movement. It's dynamic, it's calculated. So the pressure is actually going around your tank, it reacts on your braking. It's actually pretty neat. And my favorite one is shooting. Not only a new effect, but actually the pressure wave that you could see from the nature is happening even in the water. You can imagine that on some of the maps, this will really increase the graphical fidelity.
Also linked with the caliber of the gun, so if you're shooting something bigger, the wave will be obviously bigger.
I can see people starting up training rooms just to try this out and just shoot.
Well, it was funny because when we were showing it first time in WG Fest, there was a lot of players who actually didn't get from the water. Like literally they just spent the time in the water and were shooting and having fun with all the effects that we added to the game.
For me personally, it's really cool because I am doing YouTube videos still on my account. So when you do the thumbnail for the video, you are looking for a really cool scene that you can show, on the thumbnail. So I can imagine one of these explosions in the water. That would be great.
For example.
We actually added quite a few cool things into the map, and the guys were telling me like, hey, you definitely must show some of them, so I hope that I will not forget.
So, and again, this microphone trick. So Miloš can command whatever he is trying to accomplish in here. Meanwhile, everything that was working on the previous map works here as well. So it's not per map, it's systemic right now. It works everywhere.
So as you can see, to the Redshire we added a few cool objects like one zeppelin is actually crashed over there, and one zeppelin over us. Lots of planes flying all over the place. So we are not trying just to actually increase what is next to you, but even around you, and to make it as cool as possible.
How am I supposed to shoot things when I'm just looking at the scenery? That's the question, I suppose.
Maybe for a few first games, everybody will agree to install no fire zone.
I have already a very plus, something that's a really huge plus from this is that whenever I get destroyed, it's going to be so pretty that I'm going to be happy about it, probably.
We'll see soon.
So as you can see, even the high grass reacts on the shooting, and all the walls around are actually destructible with the havoc. The bigger buildings are actually still something we are working on, but some of the small effects are pretty cool, and you can have lots of fun on your machine.
So just notice how the horizon line changes the perception of the map. Because it indeed feels that there is an enormous space around you from all the directions, and it's a pretty realistic setup now.
And actually, all of this space, this is actually not 2D. All of this is actually 3D modeling that happened around.
Wow. Same goes with FX and everything else.
This is one of my favorite maps. For some reason, I'm not sure why. I just love this map, and this looks. I can tell you that sometimes I'm not even sure where you are, and then I realize it, and oh my god, the difference is huge.
Yeah, so this is exactly the effect I was mentioning earlier on. The first impression is, I don't know this map anymore, and we really try to keep that muscular memory feeling. So if you start to do what you are used to do, you suddenly find yourself in the correct positions, under the correct strategic advantage, etc., etc. So it was extremely important.
So you just follow your previous instincts, and you get to the same positions as before. It just looks different.
There was lots of discussion between me and Andrei actually about specifically this part, because one thing is, as Andrei said, we are trying to preserve as much the gameplay as possible. Of course, it's not always possible with each of the objects on the scene, but our guys are actually trying to do the best work on preserving all the gameplay elements.
I think the console version has, long way to go to catch up with this. I'm going to have a discussion with our specialist Yuriko, who is really into the console version, and I like that version as well. But this, well, they have something that they have to achieve.
Yeah, it looks amazing. We ourselves can't wait the moment till we will finish this work.
The work is cut up for them, that's for sure. This is awesome. Wow, the textures are also really, really nice.
At some point, I do remember when we were testing one of the first maps, I think it was Monastery. I was driving around in T62A, I believe, and I was shooting windows. I got that feeling at some point that the explosion effect looked pretty realistic when you hit a window for some reason. And I was driving around trying to aim and shoot windows and see how it goes. Is it indeed true without asking anybody? Like really? Did we did that? Well, actually no, not really. But it would be probably too much. Even for this initiative.
And did I see it correctly before when you were driving in the water that there's a kind of a shockwave traveling out from your gun when you're shooting?
Exactly. The shockwave is actually basically physical-based shockwave all over the place.
So it's not just an animation; it's actually physically there.
This is actually a real reaction. And as I said, even the I will show you here in the environment that you can see that even grass immediately reacted as soon as I actually showed. Or if you go to some of the trees or bushes, let me actually get there. They actually react the same way.
Oh.
So they really react in a moment when you shoot. The same works for the water. So this is client-based. So no, you cannot actually see it in case that it's not visible on your machine, because it might actually change the gameplay quite a bit. But at the same time, it gives quite a bit of visual fidelity. And when we had actually 15 to 15 shootout with the new tracers and new effects, the battlefield looks quite real.
I can imagine. I love World of Tanks, but this just blew me away.
It's absolutely stunning.
I mean, I think I played one map, and it was at Wargaming Fest. I haven't actually managed to play the ones here, so I'm kind of looking at this for the first time as well, and it's amazing.
it also unlocks a lot of other potential possibilities for us. It's probably too early to talk about many of them, but we need a lot of technical solutions that will allow us to move on with the visual quality of the maps altogether, and at the end, as I said, with the gameplay features as well on the maps. So if we want to, theoretically, let's say we can build a night map now. That was impossible to do before. Practically, this is still a big question. Should we or should we not?
But this new renderer, because this is basically a new renderer, right?
Yes.
This actually opens up a lot of new possibilities for us in the future.
It's a different bits of a new renderer. So let's say a lightning process, and that will allow us to have now significantly bigger amount of light sources of different types that emulate, I don't know, projectors and fires or whatever else. The gameplay value of that is kind of should be proven first, but technology allows us to do things like that now.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's now try to actually swap to the last one, to Himmersdorf.
Okay, so guys, can we swap to Himmersdorf? Let's see who is going to come out on top.
Yep.
A little bit of one-on-one action going on here.
Come on, Milos, you can do that.
Be careful, because Kaya is really good. He's proven it several times. Well, he didn't prove it that much with the Primo Victoria, unfortunately. But maybe he can do it now.
No,
okay.
Once again.
On the last one, I will really try to get him, actually. Then we can actually have the first.
Of detail on the ground.
Yes, of course.
I mean, this is probably one of the maps that everyone is very familiar with, so
yes,
the difference is going to be very striking.
And here, it's actually a pretty good example of the map where the visual differences are not playing that strong shock effect on an observer. So yes, it works, it looks totally different, it looks much more beautiful, but there is no this feeling of unfamiliarity thanks to the lots of objects that look kind of similar.
Because the layout is much more set, right? Because you are kind of in the city, the streets are there, so it's much easier to know where you are exactly.
Yes,
much more familiar, as you said.
To orient yourself in space, yes.
So let me show actually one of the small surprises that the guys prepared for us. And that one is actually here on the side of the river.
Whoa.
Oh my god.
So as you can see, we have actually a pretty beautiful piece of art parked here in the water, and we are really simulating one of the harbors in Germany during the end of the war. They actually even showed me pictures of similar port that was realistically actually taken from the Second World War. But my favorite one, and I already showed it once, but let me actually get some speed and I will show you once again. I call it the billiard. It's actually quite a huge formation of gas barrels, and you can have some fun on the map with them.
A little bit of Michael Bay effect going on
Exactly. So if you get them actually in a bit higher speed, I already managed almost every single one of these bars to get on the other side of the map.
Oh, so there's a little bit of mini game going on there, right?
Yeah, theoretically it is possible. Yeah. Then imagine this medal, I know, 200 barrels transferred or something like that.
Ooh, I can already see a couple of really interesting contest ideas with that, to be honest.
And as you can see, the destruction component in the city map plays a significantly bigger role because there are much more objects by environment, by the context, much more objects that are destroyable and will fall into pieces in an intricate and interesting way.
I just love the edge of the map, which is basically not there. It's like a city.
Could you imagine when you were playing Himmersdorf before that behind that railway station there will be this enormous port? I never was thinking this way.
We actually had quite a bit of problem with it. As you can see, we introduced a little bit new edge on the map, because previously it was literally a line on the ground. But with all the new effects and all the new terrain, it wasn't so visible and wasn't so clear to player that, hey, here the map actually ends. for the old players, it's easier, but especially for the new players, there was a lot of reactions in a way of, well, it looks like I can continue, and especially on the open maps with the grass in there, it wasn't visible enough. So we had to even go to such a details like this, and now instead of being actually just draw a line on the environment, it's actually basically some small
plane.
Exactly, it's a plane that fades away around the map, because otherwise it wouldn't be clear enough that the map ends there.
It looks pretty good, to be honest.
It was one of the effects of the early tests we had. When the landscape is kind of hilly, you were often missing the edge, and we're thinking like, you know, one plane. Okay, so now I can circle this guy around that hill, and that hill actually exists behind the borderline of the map.
Whoa, you actually really confused me with that one. Whoa, there's no edge. Previously there was a wall or something here, right?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So
and you can shoot over it.
Here you can actually see that I wasn't joking, that this is actually real terrain. If you shoot, the water is there.
Okay, to be honest, I kind of feel like a small child. You know, like it's Christmas.
But that's sort of an effect we tried to achieve.
Okay, it was achieved.
Well, there was a lot of work actually put into this one, and as I said, here you can see that the map looks bigger than it was before, because previously all of these were walls, but now you really feel like you are in the middle of a city, and not just in a small box or a small town somewhere in the middle, but it's actually just walled around.
And I think for grand battle maps, the fill-in will become even bigger, because
So we are also doing this for grand battles.
For every map we have in the game.
That's gonna be huge and awesome. I guess that's gonna be a lot of shells flying around. So with all these effects, it's like basically the perfect opportunity for us to shoot some videos. Awesome.
Absolutely.
I can already see the RNG videos, for example. A couple of really cool GIFs can be made out of those.
Well, not only GIFs, I hope.
I'm pretty sure there are going to be much more than just GIFs. Ooh, the whole thing is like much, I guess the size is the same, but it looks much more open.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly the part of the effort we were talking a lot before. So we wanted to make sure that every maneuver you are used to do is doable, and doable in the same manner as it was before, while visual is the same, significantly more striking and impressive, and looks more real at the end. Because this is a castle. I mean, you can go outside if you're living somewhere in, I don't know, Germany.
It's one of the most iconic locations in World of Tanks, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It looks completely different, but it looks much better, to be honest.
Well, we are really happy for that, but as you can see, there is a lot of work on that. So that's one reason why we cannot go out yet, because we have actually all of these maps are almost done. There are still some bugs around, and you could even see in the Redshire. I was trying to avoid one place because I noticed that the water